Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to continue to talk about Wild Beyond the Witchlight, the brand new Dungeons & Dragons adventure that's come out. We're going to talk about what's special in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. There's a lot that's really special about Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and I'm just absolutely thrilled with this book. I really cannot recommend it highly enough. And that is pretty incredible for me to say, I think. And the reason why is I generally detest adventures, but I love this book, right? And I really don't like that Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition is making things that are really good, just like this is the best way to understand adventures and why what Wizards of the Coast is doing is so diabolical. Let's say you needed a screwdriver, right? You go to the store and you say, hey, I need a Phillips and I need a flathead. Give me those screwdrivers, right? And they're like, hey, and you're at, like, let's say, Home Depot or Lowe's or any hardware, major hardware chain. And they're like, that's great. We know you'd love to have a screwdriver. But guess what? We're going to take you on a hayride, right? And what's going to happen and you're like, I don't need a hayride. And they're like, well, you do need a hayride. And the reason why is on the hayride, there's a part where we stop off and we give you a flathead and a Phillips, right? And you're like, well, can't you just give me the flathead and the Phillips now? They're like, no, we only sell it through this hayride, right? And you're like, because there's the League of Malevolence and there is Valor's Call. These are all the 1980s toys, right? Dungeons & Dragons action figures brought into Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition as canon. It's incredibly useful. These guys, I would have paid, I'm not kidding, the League of Malevolence and and Valor's Call are these two factions in the game. I would have paid $50 just for these 10 pages, right? Like, they're so useful. The other thing is the Harengon and the fairies, right? These are new races. New races are invaluable to every dungeon master because they allow a much broader choice for players, and the more choice there is for players, the better a game is, almost invariably, right? So you have to get this adventure to get these things, but the things are amazing. They really are. And the League of Malevolence, which is Kellic, Zarek, Zargash, Skyla, and I think there's one more in there. Oh, and of course Warduke, right? And then Valor's Call, which is Maliver and Strongheart and Ringlerun and Mercion and Elkhorn, right? These factions are amazing. They're so good, right? So I'm really loving that they're there. I wish I didn't have to buy an entire adventure. I wish this was like a Feywild setting book. That would be much better, right? But this is where we're at, right? But I have to admit, I honestly detest 256-page adventures, right? Because they're just so problematic from so many directions. But this book, I'm very happy with this book. And it's really the first Dungeons & Dragons adventure book that I've been absolutely thrilled with, right? So that's where we landed, right? So what's special about Wild Beyond the Witchlight? Let's talk. There's a whole bunch, right? So one, the Feywild, right? Like, I'll tell you right now, when they announced this book, I literally said I could give two rats about the Feywild. I do not care about the Feywild. I do not like it, right? And basically, by the way, Netflix just got in a lot of trouble, right? Because the dude, I think it was one of the creators for Queen's Gambit, ended their speech with thanking the actress who starred in the Queen's speech for making chess sexy, right? This is terrible, right? Like, the show wasn't supposed to make chess sexy. This was a show about a super smart, super independent woman, right? Like, the dude was 100% wrong, right? So it was horrible to say, to an actress, oh, thanks for making chess sexy. Like, it was terrible, right? But let's put it this way. Chris Perkins made Feywild very alluring, relative to Dungeons & Dragons players, right? Completely unlike the Netflix thing. this is a place where he did make it very attractive for dungeon masters and dungeon players to explore the Feywild. And I think that was, you know what? All that, yeah. Let's say it this way. Let's fix the Netflix mistake, right? What that creator should have said is, thanks for being a strong, independent woman and making chess as interesting to the world as it used to be to a small, dedicated group of players, right? Same thing with Feywild. There are a lot of people out there who get the Feywild. There's a small, dedicated group of people who get the Feywild and have been fans for years, right? By the way, I think the Feywild was specifically introduced in fourth edition, and now Chris Perkins did the work and has made Feywild very intriguing to people who were like, I don't give two rats about the Feywild, right? And he's just kind of taken us by the hand and said, Warduke? And I'm like, yeah, I want to see Warduke, but I got to go see the Feywild too. And then when I'm there, I'm like, oh, Feywild's pretty cool, right? So I'm loving this book, and I'm loving my introduction to Feywild. And Chris Perkins made the Feywild cool, right? Like, very intriguing, and showed everybody this is why the Feywild has been important to a small group of players for a long time. But you had it wrong. Feywild is very cool, right? And it is. I think Chris Perkins made, and chess is a hard sell for a lot of people, right? And I think Queen's Gambit, that actress who was in it, made chess intriguing and made people say, hey, I'll take a look, right? And that was the thing, right? She made it so that a large group of people could see the interest that a small group of people had for it, right? It's a much better way to say what she accomplished. And Chris Perkins accomplished this for Feywild, which I think is fantastic. I'm just thrilled with that, right? The other thing is, I got to admit, like, here's another thing, Chris Perkins is the project lead on this, okay? And there's just so much happening with this book. So one of the things, this book is really important and special. One of the things is, this book stopped an action that was, post-alignment Dungeons & Dragons was coming out. We had 3 books where alignment wasn't listed. This book, like, was F that. We're going in the right direction, right? And that's so important because it just tells us Wizards of the Coast is listening to us, right? Go over to OGGM's channel every single day. He will tell you, or close to it, WotC doesn't care what you think. This book flat out shows that's not right? Like that Wizards of the Coast is listening. And if they're going in a wrong direction, they can correct their, because I've been there. When you're dealing with large institutions, you think they're never going to change their mind. This is a 180-degree change, right? From a 3-book pattern, right? That is incredibly exciting. And we should be responsive to that, right? So I think that's really exciting. Also, this is an adventure that has delighted me. That has never happened. I love the core books, the MM, the PHB, the DMG. I love the utility books, Xanathar and Tasha's. And boy, if you ain't paying attention, everybody loves the utility books. Like, they are just, people love them, right? They are just like the Unearthed Arcana book from Dungeons & Dragons 1E. But I think that's one thing that's become super clear is utility books are universally loved, right? Just because they're so, you can utilize them. They're so incredibly useful, right? Whereas generally these these adventures have been so useless, but this is quite useful and it is quite delightful. And it's the first time I've ever bought a Dungeons & Dragons adventure for $50 and just been thrilled. It's never ever happened before, but it's happened now, and I'm super hyped about it, right? Boy, I'll tell you, oh my gosh, I just realized this. This is the first Dungeons & Dragons adventure book I own, a hardback. I never bought any of the rest of them, right? Now, actually, I've actually had the books for months. I've been at tables where, like Storm King's Thunder, I owned that for like 3 months because somebody ran it, and then it was like, do you want to borrow this? And I was like, yeah, thanks. And then I gave it back, right? Because I don't want to end up keeping their book forever. And I've had a lot of the adventure books several times, right? Because I've either been playing in them or things like that, but I've never owned one before. And so this is very exciting to me. The other thing is that was really important about Wild Beyond the Witchlight is a escape from dreary, escape from dark. escape from grimdark, right? Grimdark is a whole industry, right? Like look at Warhammer, right? They're like, ooh, this is a shade of black. Look at this blacker black shade of black, right? You know, like it's dark, gritty, extra grit, right? And people love it, right? Like people are like, you got a darker shade of black? I'm in. Let me see it. It's a thing, right? People, but 100%, this book is just a complete rejection of the darkness of Descent to Avernus and that dark, gritty, like, ooh, suckfest that was Rime of the Frostmaiden, right? It's like, hey, why don't we give people something to be happy about? Why don't we show, a lighthearted, some folly and some winsomeness, right? And that's what's in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. This isn't completely dark. It's got funny, winsome aspects. There's some dark aspects to it, but it's saying, hey, blacker than black. Let's go even darker into the grim dark. It was a trend. It's a trend in a lot of books. They're like, oh, getting grittier and darker is adult. Yeah, but it's not fun, right? And so I'm just really super excited. So I am absolutely thrilled with Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Each day that I'm, reading deeper and deeper into the book, I'm just absolutely thrilled. And I'll tell you right now, being like the whole experience, I think, I've shared this. This latte apocalypse has been brutally difficult for me. I really feel like the world is half broke, and joy has been hard to see beyond God and my family. Those always bring me joy, but the world used to bring me a lot of joy, right? And it just hasn't been right lately. And this book has been so wonderfully joyful, and I'm just giddy that I'm going to get to do it 2 more times before the year is out. I am highly planning, right, that the moment Strixhaven drops, I'm going to run up, buy it from my FLGS exactly the same way I did on this one, and Fizzbands. And I'm all in. I'm just getting so much enjoyment from the new Dungeons & Dragons books. I'm so excited about them saying, we care about what you think, and we want to make things good. I'm just thrilled. So I highly recommend getting this book if you haven't gotten it already. I'd love to hear your thoughts as soon as you get your copy. Let me know in the comments below your opinion on adventures and your experience buying new books. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, has anybody out there played Quest for the Heartstone or have experience with Quest for the Heartstone? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.